We'll move on so to the calving area. I suppose prior to you building this, how was your calving set up?
Our setup was fine for 100 cows.
Yeah.
But when we went up in cows, we'd end up calving, and by the time we'd begun halfway through, every pin was full of calves, even the calving pins. We were very tight in space.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, effluent-wise, it wasn't compliant because it just wasn't built that way. And I mean, like the cows now calving so compact. I mean, you need to have things right for them.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're going to have a lot of extra work and things that'll happen that shouldn't happen because cows are not.
Yeah.
You haven't enough space.
So how many cows would you put in here and say in the month of February or whatever typically would you have in
Well,
area?
I'd say about 20 was the most we ever had inside in it.
Yeah.
But most nights there'd be 10 or 15 inside in it because with bulls now minus for calving, like, I mean, they'll calve 5 weeks before time, you know, they don't carry days.
Okay.
And especially with, it's all freezing we use, so
Okay.
they don't carry any time.
Okay.
So this is usually, it's well bedded, and we keep bedding it. We might clean it out 3 times across the spring, but we like to keep a good bed in it because for, you know, cows don't be stable on their legs after calving.
Yeah.
And if you have a cow, any lame cows put in there as well.
Yeah.
And
which is a big help to have for later in the year as well, with a cow with a chill or something as well, I presume.
it is, yeah.
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 It's conveniently located.
Yes. And it also takes pressure off of the shed as well too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's freeing up about 20 cubicles.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're put in here, and they're shoved up then into the calving pins.
Yes.
And
do you use the calving pens or would you calve them in the loose area?
it depends. It depends. Normally there's 4 cows freshly calved inside in the pins, but you might have 4 more calving here.
Yeah.
So usually you're just busy with the tagger. You tag the calves and you just keep moving them on.
Okay.
But
I suppose they're well located for a vet to come into if as we saw the sliding door earlier. The vet is not traveling very far if a vet had to come.
no, and he doesn't have to be coming through the parlour. And if there's anyone in and out, they don't be upsetting if you milk him.
Yeah.
And like that now, they are a great thing. The calving gate. It's safer and it's easier on the cow as well.
Yes, if you
because
do a section or anything or
that's
whatever.
right. And even calving the cow by night, you can. If you're on your own, you have no problem. And if you have to,
it's not a game of chicken. Like you're in control.
You're in control. Yeah.
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 And are the posts fixed in the ground or?
These are fixed in the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Fixed in the ground, but the load shovel can drive up in here.
Okay.
And like you can clean out the shed in 10 minutes. It's cleaned out.
Yeah.
So the 2 gates below are opening back.
Yeah.
And it's cleaned out in 10 minutes, and usually what we do is we just stick the volume washer in and wash it out and run it out the yard scraper, disinfect it.
How often would you do that?
In the start, we might go 3 weeks, but as we shove into the year, we do it more often.
Right.
But it takes a lot of straw to bed it, so the more you bed it, the better the bed is. But when we get a lot of cows calved, you try to, you don't want a build-up of bugs.
And that's your dump line here going overhead?
That's the dump line coming straight from the parlours down into the calf house.
And return back for the wash.
Return back up,
it's up the other side then.
Yeah, washes with the parlour.
Yeah. And for straw in an area like this, Billy, where would your straw come from? It's not...
The straw comes from Kilavolan.
Right, yeah.
Castletown Road.
Yeah. And that's just the way it is.
That's the way it is, yeah. So we'd use a lot of straw, but straw is cheap.
Yeah.
It mightn't be cheap, but if you keep your cows clean, your calves clean, it cuts out a pile of work.
Yeah.
And it's beneficial when you're spreading it afterwards as well.
Yeah. So the cow calves, she's with it for a few hours or whatever.
Yeah, cow calves, calf is fed straight away. If there's no pressure on, she's left there. Usually she's not left there too long.
Yeah.
And it could happen she could be there for 2 days when things start to slacken off.
Yeah.
But the calf has moved on then down here into the calf house.
Yeah.
And
so the calf comes left here. Do you
calf comes this way,
a trolley, or are you manually lifting it, or
usually he runs down or walk him on down. He isn't far to go.
Yeah. So this is an impressive calf shed. It's well laid out.
Yeah, it's that was a bit of thought put into it, but it was Donovan's that designed the shed.
Yeah.
And it's well laid out.
Yeah. Again, say going back to previous times with your old calf shed or how you were managing calves, how does it compare to it, or is it a...
Yeah, in our old calf shed, what we had was we layer with pallets and bed it, and it was an awful drafty shed. It was a round roofed 4-block shed, but it reared a pile of calves. But we used to get a lot of pneumonia inside in it. We got everything inside in it,
right?
And we didn't lose too many calves, but it was labour intensive.
Okay.
And in a bad night, you could be drawing bales of straw trying to pack up corners.
Yeah, not easy.
Whereas this is like coming out into your own house. It's
So you have 5 pens here.
5 pens, yes.
Yeah. How many would you put into each pen typically?
30 maximum if you had to.
Yeah.
But usually about 25.
Okay.
I'd say the spring now is supposed to the most we had about 150 calves inside in it.
Right.
Because with like in the first 3 weeks there, you could have easily 150 cows calved.
Yeah.
And the calves are here until such time as they're fit to start going for the mart.
Right.
So.
So all your levels are falling forward, maybe just in terms of the way the concrete's laid.
Yes, everything is moving here. We have a 6-inch drain pipe here.
Yeah.
And we have the half moons there on the curb for drainage.
Yes.
So this is a clean area.
No straw typically out there.
No straw.
Yeah.
It's power washed with the volume washer here. In the evening, you could stand here and just wash it down.
Yeah.
And it keeps it a clean area. They're bedded every day, the calves. And
how are you bedding it? Are you manually putting it in, or how are you getting the straw in there? Yeah.
So we usually have a stack of bales down the corner there.
Round or square?
Big squares.
Yeah.
So that is the hardest job to do every day, bed the calves.
Yeah.
But it pays to keep them clean though.
Yeah. And there's a lot of functionality in the gates you have then as well, obviously. They're not just a gate
so
like they're...
you can either lock in calves or lock out calves. So if you want to keep the calves in, you can lock them all into the pin here. So if you close every gate up along, you can, if you want to, you could back your trailer in up to this pin if you want to take calves out of it.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to be walking down to the bottom pin.
Yeah.
Or else, as the calves get bigger, this gets more dirty. You can back in with your tractor in the morning and give it one under the scraper.
Yes.
Takes the drudgery out of it.
Yeah.
And if you want to clean out the bed, you can lock all the calves out.
Or put them on in here again.
So you can lock all your calves out here.
Yeah.
Especially if you had to do anything, if you wanted to inject them or anything or do anything, you can lock them out into here.
Yes.
So the idea of the curb is, and that's another Donovan thing as well, if you're cleaning them out and you're running up along with the loader, there's nothing going to get caught.
You have a clean run with the loader.
Yes, it keeps you out from the gates.
Gate off it. Yeah, I can see that.
Nice and all the gates are, they're telescopic, we'd say.
Okay.
You can loosen them here and lift them up as the bed runs up, that they're not stuck inside in the straw.
And unlike the calving area, those posts on a sleeve?
They're on a sleeve, they're on a stainless steel sleeve, so they all come up out of the... You can open up everything and these should come up.
Yeah.
So it leaves the shade.
A post in there, I think they're stainless sleeve.
Stainless steel,
Yeah.
So the big door below the loader comes in and clean it all out. And
yeah. So you went for a fancy hay feeder?
Yeah, homemade.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't our idea.
Yeah.
We saw it on YouTube by someone else.
Yeah.
But the only difference our one is we cored them. The ones we saw that were square.
Right.
And the calf, very little wastage to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're constantly feeding.
Yeah.
And it's very simple to do. So
notch there.
Just drill one hole here, splice your barrel.
Yeah.
And that's your feeder.
And it has a bit of strength, obviously, as well.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a
it
good
takes
idea.
it takes a nice bit of hay.
Yeah.
And they do eat a lot of hay.
Yeah.
And especially for the calf feeder, it's important that they get plenty of fibre, because for bloat, it works well. So it's simple.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the feeders. You went, were you always into automatic feeding, or?
We had a Liscardal feeder for years.
For whole milk, was it?
For whole milk, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was 25 years ago we had that. A lot of working in that you had to keep it filled. And it worked fine, but you'd feed a lot of milk through it. But these are a completely different machine now. They're, like, everything has moved on.
Okay.
It's 3-phase, so it'll work the 4 feeders together. It washes twice a day automatically.
Yeah.
It has its own dosing pumps as well. So you just keep them filled with detergents, and she's her own boiler.
Right.
And
so it's cold water coming to it.
That's right. The only thing you have to do as regards work is, and snow work, is you just take off the nipples and you put them into a bucket of sterilizer and you swap them every 2 days.
Right.
And
each calf has a collar then, has it, or a tag, or how?
No, it's just reading the tag.
The RFID
so
tag.
Once the calf goes into the box, he's read here.
Okay.
On this.
Yeah.
His number will appear here.
Yes.
And he's logged into the computer and the machine, and he'll start off at 200 and he works his way down to 0, so he gets 200 squibs to drink. So they're allotted 6 kgs of 6 litres of milk a day.
Yeah.
And
will it divide that out over the day?
He can drink it all in 3 feeds, or if he only drinks half it, he can come back at any stage.
Yeah.
And he'll get it. It will be allotted to him.
Okay.
But he won't get anything more than that.
Yeah.
So when you come in the morning, the first thing you'll do is you'll come down to your feeder, and you have 3 columns here. You have red, yellow, and green. The green is he'll have done everything right to be in the green.
Yeah.
If he's in the yellow, he might be due a feed, but if he's in the red, he's missed a feed.
You're looking for him then.
Yeah. So it will appear you could have 1 calf, 3 calves, and maybe 40 calves.
Yeah.
So what you do then is you can go back in and you can see. Well, this is the way he's programmed from 0 to 71 days.
Yes.
And when he gets to about day 50, it starts to bring him down. And by the time he gets to day 71, he won't even realise he's off milk.
Yeah.
And you'll hear no calf.
Yeah. He's getting nothing through it as such. He's not getting water or watered down milk. It's just he's getting less and less completely.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's built in to restrict him slowly, and he will be taken up of he'll be taking a lot of. That's the other thing about the feeder as well, that they do eat a lot of. They get going straight away on the ration.
Right.
And why that is because it's high in protein and it's low in fat, so they feel a bit extra hungrier.
Okay.
But they will grow mad on the protein.
Okay.
And so it will tell you then exactly how much he's had. So if he hasn't drank his full feed, you'll know exactly when and why. So you can be watching out for him.
What's a nice feature, I think, as well, what you've done here as well, the services are all running underneath.
That's right, yes.
In some places, you've pipes running along the ground and they just get kicked around the place, but that was a conscious decision of yours?
Yes, because in the Liscardal feeder, that's the way it was, and it was nothing to do with Liscardal, it was just the way we had it set up. And if a dog came in and pulled the hose, every drop of milk was gone down the drain, so you could be at 3 o'clock in the morning feeling the feeder.
Yeah.
So
everything is from behind.
Everything is piped here on the ground.
Yeah. Going in 2 directions.
2 directions, and it's coming up here.
Through the service duct there in the middle.
Through this duct here.
Yeah.
And you can wash, and it's in no one's way.
Yeah. And they're all sealed as well, nearly as well. There's nothing
well, yes, it was, what we done was we just packed it with newspaper and sealed it with concrete. Because we were told that you want no mice or anything going down into the ducting.
Yeah.
And it was just done in the start, and there was never a problem with it.
I know.
So it's in its 2nd year now, and it hasn't required. It'll probably require a service this year, but it hadn't to be serviced this year.
Okay.
So it has worked extremely well.
Has automated feeding reduced the workload for you?
Unreal, yeah.
Okay.
Like, it was one thing to milk the cows, but it was another job to get the calves done.
Yeah.
Whereas now, the calves, you wouldn't even know they're just lying there. There's no hassle in them. They're fed, and all you have to do really is just keep bedding them. And the calves do extremely well. So we've better calves as well.
Okay.
And less. We got no scour in the calves, and as such, no problems. So less veterinary bills with them as well.
Yeah.
And the big thing is the labour. There's no,
Yeah.
just myself and Brian are managing the cows and the calves.
Okay.
And there's no real work on it.
Right. Good to hear.
Yes.
So just looking at, you've a nice, I suppose you've access to water here as well.
Oh yes, yeah.
Good sink.
We've hot water here.
Yeah.
That's coming down from the parlour. So if you want, we use, the calves have to be 5 days old before they go on the feeder. So we start them off on fresh milk.
Yeah.
And we use nipple bars. And the bull calves are all fed on the, well, we won't call it, on bee stings, the waste milk we call it.
Yeah.
And the heifers are put on the milk replacer. So this is our dump line here. So when...
so there's no trolley or anything needed, basically?
No.
You have the whole lot beside
so
you?
So you have a barrel here, and this goes into it while you're milking. When you're finished milking, just come down and reconnect this, and it washes with the parlour.
Yeah.
And
big labour saving, so as well, you're not carrying milk around the place?
no.
Yeah.
No, and there's no milk, there's nothing wasted.
Yeah.
Because everything is contained.
Yeah.
And if it does spill, it's gone there. There's no...
Yeah. So I suppose to finish on ventilation then as well, it's a big issue on calf sheds.
That's right, yeah.
It's a science in itself trying to get it right. You didn't go for, say, vented sheeting or Yorkshire boarding on the side?
Well, initially we were going to put Yorkshire boarding in here. We have the canopy, and the lady that sold us the feeder said that we're facing east this way, and all the real cow water comes from the east. So she advised us not to do it, so we didn't. We can always change it if we had to, but we're glad now we didn't do it because we have plenty of fresh air in here.
Yeah.
There's a roller door here, so we usually have maybe 2 stacks of big square bales there.
Right.
So some days it's opened up to the last, more days it's half opened, or more days it's closed.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with calves, you have to be constantly watching.
You're just gauging that with your gut instinct or whatever to...
Well, yes,
yeah.
no, you'll know if the breeze changes. This door can be open well back as well.
Yeah.
Some days both doors are well opened.
Yes.
But it just depends on the day.
Yeah.
But,
so it's a successful, I suppose, calf shed, obviously, anyway. You
no,
healthy calves, you'd know if it wasn't.
Yeah, and we've good calves, and the calves are doing very well.
Okay.
So, look, it was the side of the yard, it was the last thing there was ever money going to be spent on, because the calves were usually getting whatever bit of houses were left around the place, but like calves are expensive to rear, and you'd want to be doing them right. You do. And I mean, if they don't hit their target weights, it's going to affect them when they go milking. So,
yes.
It's very important to get them right.
Yeah.
And you only get one chance to do it.
Yes. So I suppose to finish, Billy, you're 2 years down the road.
2 years down the road, yeah.
You built in a good time, hindsight-wise, from an inflation perspective.
Right.
So
we were very lucky that things were just things were getting scarce, materials, but we had it just done, and we got it at the normal things before things went mad.
Yeah.
Which was a huge saving in this job. Yeah. In the size of the job we'd done. But,
yes.
No, we had it well budgeted, and we were just lucky that we moved when we moved. Yeah. And no one delayed us when we were doing it. Everything fell in. So we had good men doing it. Yeah. So look, obviously it will see you out, and it will see Brian as well in a lot of ways.
Surely
to
God,
in terms of it's a wise investment. And
oh yes, yeah.
Well, and look, the big one is, I mean, farming's hard enough, but I mean, try and make it as easy as you can. Yeah. For you to enjoy it as well. There's no point doing it just for the sake of doing it. Yeah. You have to be able to, and not to get old before your time. Yeah. And you know, because there is very
Hardship
little.
can put years on people very quickly.
Oh, it can, yeah. And like there's no extra labour out there.
No.
You know, and I mean, you get tired of it very quickly especially as you get older. I mean, you can't do what you're doing when you were younger.
No. And there's a lot more cows in yards now, and
there is, yeah.
So it's important to have it right.
It is, yeah. You know, and if you get it right, do it right in the start.
Yeah.
It'll be right forever.
Yeah. And
but get it wrong, it's wrong forever.
Yeah. And having a plan to some extent, I suppose it's just having something on paper. Obviously, is a help. You will change it slightly, but having a perspective on it before you start digging.
Yeah. Well, look, I know a few lads that use grass tick, and you know, when I saw the plans they got, how detailed they were. You know, it gave you all the options.
Yeah.
And I mean, as I said, if you get it wrong, it's wrong forever. And if you plan it and go with it and it's right, it's a job. It's a cheap job. Then.
Yeah. And I suppose, look, it's a platform for the likes of Donovan's, as we mentioned here, helping with the layout, but also Slattery's as well, who did a fine job in your parlour.
They did, yeah.
But, you know, look, they need a plan ultimately to work with too, and you know where you want to go.
They do, yeah, and sure, like they're doing it every day, and they know, you know, and if you work with them, they're prepared to work with you, and they'll do the right job. I mean, if we're going to be skimping, it's hard for them to do a good job then.
It is.
You know, and that's you pay for what you get afterwards.
Yeah, no, very good.
Yeah.
No, look, the best luck with it, and thanks for showing us around here today, and
no bother.
we're glad to be of help along the way anyway.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.